are some keys that I believe are important to a successful marriage. The most important one is God. People must agree on God. You must put God at the center of your relationship in order for it to work. And then I have several others, and there's no real particular order, it's just kind of how they came to me. The next one would be kids. Do you want kids? And if you already have kids and you're coming into a mixed marriage, then you better make the kids part of the equation. So how are you going to raise kids? How are you going to blend families? See, that's an important thing to think about. I think so many people just kind of jump into a relationship or marriage, and then they kind of figure things out along the way and realize they didn't necessarily line up. The next one that I have here is family. I believe that liking each other's family is important because you're marrying into it, and that doesn't mean you're going to like everybody in their family, their extended family, but I believe you should at least like the father and mother of who you get married to, and possibly their siblings, as much as you can. It's, you're not marrying necessarily those people, you're marrying, who would be your spouse. But, you also have to think about, you're going to be spending holidays and different events with them, so you definitely don't want it to be some fight or, always hate having to be around them. And, to me, it's, and some people do end up a lot different than their parents, but, in a lot of ways, if you're marrying them, they are a byproduct of their parents. So, you would think that you would like them and want them to be around them. I don't know, it just kind of, it's something that aggravates me and maybe it's more just portrayed like in movies and stuff, but I'm sure because it happens in real life where, they talk about, well, they have to go see the in-laws and how much they hate it and how much they're dreading it. And I'm thinking, why put yourself through that when you can, marry somebody who you love and love their family as well. The next one I have is finances, because how you see money is important, because it is important to life. It's interesting how it always seems like a saver marries a spender, and money's gonna, that's how, it's just so important to life. It might be, other than God, is probably the most central issue to life, because you can't do anything without it. And, it's just, how are you going to spend your money? What are your priorities? What are your priorities with it? You can't, each spouse can't be doing living like they're single, spending their money how they want. The money has to be for the betterment of the family. And I believe that money is the number one, money issues are the number one cause of divorce, and it's not necessarily a lack of money, it's just fighting over money. So, being on the same page in regards to money, I believe, is super important. Taking care of a house, it's something you don't think about till you have one, but when you have one, it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of work to run a household and keep it clean and everyone fed. What's their idea? Are they just wanting a place to live? Are they, they want you to do all the work? Are they wanting to binge watch TV all the time? I think these are conversations that are often overlooked because, we come into marriage with just, our assumptions of how things, how your family was, so you think that's what they're going to do. And I believe it's important to, talk about what are the shared household responsibilities. Who's doing laundry? When are you doing laundry? And it doesn't have to be, set in concrete from day one, but just kind of get those ideas going. Just kind of see, because when you're young, you have no clue what it takes to run a household. Mom and dad did all that, but as you get older, you realize, upkeep on a house, takes quite a bit. Or even if you, live in an apartment, there's still, chores to be done around it to keep it picked up. And, hopefully, whoever you marry doesn't just leave everything laying all over the floor and not care. But, maybe that's their idea. Maybe, they can come out of their clothes and just leave them where they lie, and then they wash them, just kind of throw them back on the floor. And, so I just think it's important to, have those conversations and see what they think about a house, running a household, and whose responsibility they think things should be. Shopping, that's kind of another one of the things that it has to be done. And now that they have so much online shopping, grocery pickup, stuff like that can help. But in other regards, do they go shopping every weekend just for clothes, or just to shop, just to spend money? I mean, that's one thing to look at too. And that kind of goes with the finances as well. But the fact of life is that you have to shop. You every once in a while at least have to buy new clothes. You have to buy kids clothes. You have to buy groceries, and so that it kind of comes down to what groceries are you buying, how much are you spending, that sort of thing. Hopefully they don't want to only live on junk food, but that could be something to talk about too. What are we buying when we shop? I think that's important. And then another one I have here is self-care. I think too often, just in general, we overlook this anyway, but I believe it's important that each spouse take care of themselves, because when they come together, they are the pillars of the family, and you can't rely on somebody else to build you up, to keep you strong. And that doesn't mean you ignore the family or ignore your spouse and go live your best life while they do all the work around the house. No, that's, do you just need does the wife need an hour every, week or something away from the kids just to, catch a break of sanity? And, does the man need to go on a run just to kind of clear his thoughts and mind? And there's just different things to help keep yourself sane, and in the crazy world, and in raising a family without putting stress on the rest of the family. Because if the husband and wife aren't at their best, it's going to be hard for the family to be at their best. If the husband and wife are always worn down and tired, they're going to lash out in anger, and they're just not going to be at their best self. Because when kids are young, they can take a lot out of you, and a lot of times that responsibility falls on the woman, and sometimes the man doesn't necessarily know how to help. But if they're not communicating, if they're not talking well about it, I guess, and not just saying that it's there, I believe that can lead to some unnecessary conflict. And I just believe a normal level of healthy self-care is important to not just devote your entire life to your kids or to your spouse, but to say, because you're still a whole person. You might be, in a marriage and then part of a family, and that comes with responsibilities, but it doesn't mean you just completely disappear. You still have to take care of yourself, because you can't give, from empty. So you have to keep yourself full, and there will always be something, someone needing your and wanting your undivided attention, but you have to just set some boundaries and just take care of yourself. And I believe that's important. A marriage is a team, and so it's just important to work as a team to do the different things that need to be done. And as we talked about before, marriage isn't about sex, but that's one way that that God has given us to bring the two together, to bring strength to the relationship. But if you don't align in these other areas, I believe you just eventually won't line up sexually either. And I think that's where so many relationships get off. It's too often based on the physical more than concrete pillar type things that you actually have in common and that can build a family around, and that can help it, and that can hurt it. This is something I heard Kevin Queen say on a podcast. He's a preacher in Nashville. He said, when a relationship goes physical, especially early in a relationship, it says, "I think you're boring." And, that just that really struck me because that's so much of what our society says that a relationship needs to be about, and we don't truly get to know the other person. And so these things that I've gone through, and I'm about to go through a couple more too, but if you line up on those things, I believe that'll give you a good strong foundation for when things get rocky. You'll have something to stand on. There's a support structure there, other than when it's based off of sex. When stuff gets hard, there's nothing, it's basically a relationship based on nothing. So when things get hard, there's nothing there to hold there's no foundation there. You have dreams, and the person you marry has dreams. Who you are today isn't who you will necessarily be in the future. You want to make sure you have similar life dreams and goals. I believe that's also important. What are your dreams for the future? That can be a big thing that, if you have two different ideas of where you should live, that could be a big thing. You don't necessarily have to have the same occupation, because there's, you can do different occupations in the same city, but if one person desires, if they feel like they just love New York City and that's where they want to live, and the other is like, well, I want to live in warm, sunny LA, there's a little bit of a problem there, because those are not even close to each other. So, it's just kind of a, I don't know, just a kind of a strange example, I guess. But, I think so many times people get married under the assumption, well, we have the same idea of what we want our lives to look like in the future, when really that's not always the case. And so I believe, talking about things like that are important. That's not to say that, you won't start off somewhere and then, get a job promotion and move somewhere and have to, work through that later. But, I just think it's important, because, and besides living in two different, some people, their idea, they want to get married and they want to work remote and travel the world. And, you can do that in today's society, and the other may not want to travel the world. So it's kind of it's finding where your goals and dreams align, along with these other things. I came across this, and I don't know who did it, so I can't give them credit for it, but it says, you're not dating their cute face, height, or smile. You're dating their maturity, morals, and growth. Evaluate that before you catch feelings for something that doesn't deserve you. I just thought that was really powerful. The last thing that I believe that will help you have a strong marriage is dating after marriage. I believe you should continue to pursue each other and learn about each other even after marriage. If you're not intentional about it after marriage, life will make you drift apart. And just the craziness of life and raising kids, just different things pulling at you and tugging at you if you're not consistent in communicating and spending time with each other, and making sure you get on, go on little getaways, or go on dates every so often. I believe that, those things can just strengthen your relationship. As it's sad to me that so many people get married, and I believe we're truly in love, and then have kids, and then over time the kids became the central part of the relationship, and the couple that started it weren't, and then the kids graduate and they look up and don't know who they're married to because they quit pursuing each other and realize now they're just roommates. And you can have a good lunch with someone you don't hardly know, but that sure doesn't, you sure don't share a life with that, a home with that person. And that's what I think it ultimately comes to. If you're not in strong communication, you don't keep pursuing each other. And so I just believe these are things that can help you have a strong marriage, and I believe you can have a strong marriage. And so I hope these helped you greatly.
Thanks for watching and listening. It would mean so much to me if you hit the like or subscribe button on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Rumble, YouTube, or like the Facebook page.